The history of Disney. A pocket full of change and a dream. In 1923, a 20-year-old man named Walter Elias Disney stepped off a train in Hollywood with only $40 in his pocket, a cardboard suitcase, and a stubborn dream. His first animation company, Laugh-O-Gram Films, had gone bankrupt. He'd slept in his office, eaten cold beans from a can, and drawn until his fingers were cramped. But failure didn't scare Walt. With his brother Roy by his side, he opened the Disney Brothers Studio. Hidden fact, Walt once tried to sell vacuum cleaners door to door to make ends meet before Hollywood. He didn't sell a single one. The rabbit that got away. Believe it or not, Disney's first hit wasn't Mickey Mouse, it was Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, distributed by Universal Pictures. In 1928, Walt suffered a crushing blow. On a trip to New York, he learned his distributor not only took Oswald's rights, they stole most of his animators too. The deal was so ruthless, it could have ended his career. But on the train ride home, Walt sketched in his mind a cheerful mouse with round ears and a spark of mischief. The final design was drawn by UB Iwerks back in California. Hidden fact, the original name for Mickey was actually Mortimer Mouse. Walt's wife Lillian thought it sounded silly and suggested Mickey instead. Mickey's first whistle. That mouse became Mickey Mouse, who debuted in Steamboat Willie, one of the first cartoons with synchronized sound. Walt voiced Mickey himself, partly because he was cheap labor, partly because no one else could really capture the plunky optimism he wanted. Mickey wasn't just a character, he was a symbol of hope in the middle of the Great Depression. By 1932, Walt had received a Special Academy Award for creating Mickey Mouse. Hidden fact, Mickey was so popular in the 1930s that children were reportedly more familiar with him than the sitting US president. Disney's Folly. In 1937, Walt risked everything on a project critics nicknamed Disney's Folly, the world's first full-length animated feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. To create Snow White, it took 3 years and nearly $1.5 million, an astronomical sum in the 1930s. But when it premiered, audiences were stunned. They laughed, they cried, and they lined up to see it again. Snow White became the highest grossing film of its time and funded a brand new state-of-the-art studio. Hidden fact, Walt mortgaged his own house to help finish Snow White when the budget spiraled out of control. The strike that broke the magic. Behind the magic, there was tension. Animators joked working for Walt was like working for the army. In 1941, underpaid and overworked, hundreds of Disney employees went on strike. Walt saw it as a personal betrayal and never forgave some of them, including Art Babbitt, the man who helped George create Goofy. The bitterness lasted for years and changed how Walt dealt with staff forever. Hidden fact, the FBI recruited Walt as an informant during this period. He reported on union organizers and even suspected communist sympathizers in Hollywood. War and survival. The 1940s brought Pinocchio and Bambi, but also World War II. After Pearl Harbor, the US military occupied Disney Studios for 8 months, turning it into a hub for training films and propaganda. The government contracts kept the company alive during the war years, but the creative spark dimmed. Hidden fact, Disney created a special mascot for World War II US Navy destroyer, a version of Donald Duck dressed as a sailor, armed with a gun. A place where dreams come true. In the 1950s, Walt set his sights beyond film. He imagined a theme park where families could step inside the magic. He mortgaged his house to fund it and used a brand new medium, television, to market it. On July 17, 1955, Disneyland opened in Anaheim. Opening day was absolutely chaos. Counterfeit tickets flooded in, rides broke down. The pavement was so fresh, women's heels sank into it, and a gas leak shut down sections of the park. But Walt walked the streets, shaking hands, taking notes, determined to make it perfect. Hidden fact: Walt hired undercover Disneyland inspectors to roam the park and report on things like chewing gum stuck to sidewalks or employees looking bored. The Florida Dream. By the mid-1960s, Walt dreamed bigger: Walt Disney World in Florida, complete with a futuristic city called Epcot. Not just a theme park, but a living, breathing community. To secretly buy the massive Florida land without prices skyrocketing, Disney smartly used fake company names like MT Lot and Reedy Creek Ranch Corporation. But in 1966, before ground could be broken, Walt Disney died of lung cancer at 65. Hidden fact: that cryogenic freezing myth? Totally false. Walt was actually cremated. The rumour came from a 1969 Sci-Fi magazine article. The Legacy. Roy Disney delayed retirement to finish his brother's vision. In 1971, he opened Walt Disney World with the words, "May Walt Disney World bring joy and inspiration to all who come to this happy place." From a sketch on a train to a global empire, Disney has shaped childhoods for nearly a century. Today, it owns Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and its castle logo is recognized worldwide. But behind the fireworks is a story of ruthless ambition, crushing failures, and one man's refusal to quit. As Walt once said, "If you can dream it, you can do it," and he certainly did. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bells for our weekly History Made Simply episodes.